Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast, the podcast designed to be your companion in the journey of self-discovery. I'm Barbara Thompson, your host and a dedicated therapist. I'm the founder and owner of Self-Care Studio, a private counselling practice. With my clients and courses that I create on this podcast, I'm committed to ensuring that you have the support that you need. I created this podcast as a space for you to feel a sense of connection and a reminder that you're not alone in this thing that we call life, this adventure. This podcast is your weekly reminder to trust yourself, live life authentically, and embrace the path that is uniquely yours. Together, we'll explore ways to break free from people-pleasing, overthinking, allowing you to claim your time. You'll be joined by myself as I take you through some episodes, or during the year, I'll have some special self-care experts as guests on my podcast. So if you're ready to step into a life that's truly for you, join me on this journey. Let's navigate the twists and turns of life together, and more importantly, live your life for you. So thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. Let the studio chat begin. Are you struggling with hormonal imbalances, or are you looking to enhance your menstrual health naturally? I may have something for you. Introducing seed cycling, a scientifically backed naturopathic protocol designed to balance your hormones and support your overall menstrual wellness. Do you suffer from heavy periods that are longer than 7 days, painful periods, or you may have an irregular cycle over 37 days? Does your mood suffer every month? Do you have PMS? Do you feel bloated all the time? Is your sleep terrible? Do you have adult acne? Trouble getting pregnant? Do you experience anxiety or depression, fatigue or exhaustion, or is your hair thinning or is your hair falling out? These are all signals from the body that your hormones need to be addressed. Seed Cycle Blend is designed to optimize your hormone levels naturally, promoting healthier cycles and happier ovaries. It's clinically proven to help manage the conditions like PCOS and supports a healthy gut microbiome without any of those side effects. Seed cycling involves rotating specific organic seeds throughout different phases of your menstrual cycle. What you do is you add 2 tablespoons daily of either of the blends, depending on where you are in your cycle or the moon phase. Mix in with some mixed yogurt on top of your eggs, blended with some smashed avo or in your smoothie. And once you do that consistently, you'll be ready to take charge of your hormonal health, and I know that it's going to make a difference. So head over on Instagram, Seed Cycle Blend, and I've actually got a discount code for you guys. If you type in self-care seeds into the checkout, you will get a discount. And there's actually a really cool function that you can have a subscription service. You can cancel at any time, but it can make sure that these 2 different blends, the follicular phase blend and the luteal phase blend, are delivered to your door every month. And there's actually a 90-day money-back guarantee as well. So give them a go. Seed Cycle Blend. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Studio Chat podcast. Today, it's winter over here, but we're going to actually head over to somewhere that's, heading into the summer months. We're heading over to Alberta, Canada. And today I'm excited to bring to you Lori Cunningham. Her business is called A Space for Her. And we're actually going to be talking about this is episode 117. So I haven't actually spoken about this. And as a therapist, it's interesting that I've saved this episode for Lori. So it's good because I haven't spoken about self-worth. So today that's exactly what we're going to talk about, self-worth, and the importance of having a healthy, integrated self. So really getting to know yourself. So welcome to my podcast, Lori. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you. It's so wonderful to be here.
Now, I know it's always an interesting question for me to ask my guests when you come onto my podcast. Can you share a little bit about yourself, Lori, like what you do and how we're going to be talking about worthiness today?
Mm-hmm. I call myself a transformational coach, and I started out on my coaching journey actually. Health and fitness has always been like a huge thing. I mean, in the early 2000s, I was a personal trainer. I got my degree in recreation. I was a recreation coordinator for like years until I had my girls and I became a stay-at-home mom. And when I got into my coaching, I was like, I want to help people change their relationship with their health and fitness. I want to help them get to the root of what's stopping them from like achieving their health and their fitness goals. And when I got out of my coaching certification program, I started coaching women and I loved it. But every time I would coach them, I would go to like the deeper work. Like, let's get into like that inner child and let's heal that, let's get to like, just getting to the deep rooted stuff. And then I began to realize, like, Lori, that's your zone of genius. Like, that's your gift, is the gift to really offer that safe space for people to do that deeper work and for me to coach into that deeper work. And what I found for a lot of them is that it rooted back to like them not feeling good enough. And I was at a networking thing here in where I live, and I had like I was talking about both like the health and the fitness and like the self-worth and people living to their full potential. And she's like, that's where your passion is. That's where you lit up, is when you started talking about that. And so my coaching pivoted and I'm like, this is the work that I love, that I think all like 95% of the population, if not more, could really benefit to doing work on this level.
Mm. Have you done something similar yourself in your own personal life? Is that how you know about this stuff?
Yeah, as I went through my coaching certification, and it was a very deep coaching certification, and that's where I became like, I wasn't conscious of, and I think most of us aren't conscious that we need to do self-worth work. And that's when it's the awareness started to come, like, oh, that's my core wound, is the I'm not good enough, the I don't feel worthy. And then I started like seeing how, oh yeah, like that's why I did this and that's why I did that and that, and I was like, this, I want to just help women really claim their inherent worth. Yeah.
Mm. And you say that worthiness is not about healing. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, it's when we wake up to our inherent worth, it's like it's the illusion, right? That we are broken. We don't need to be fixed. It's just our perception that needs that's faulty. That somehow throughout our life, and probably between the age of 0 and 7, we bought into these misunderstandings that we aren't good enough or we aren't worthy. And so it's almost, to me, it's like waking up from a nightmare. You
Mm.
don't go back into the nightmare to fix it. You just wake up from it.
Yeah.
And um, so it's not about healing worthiness. It's just waking up from the trance, waking up from the illusion. Because it's like I'm not good enough and I am good enough are both stories. And the pendulum's going to swing. Like there's sometimes when you're going to think I'm on top of the world and I am good enough, but then it's going to go back to the I'm not good enough at a different situation. And you're just going to be on this roller coaster, riding this roller coaster of like the highs and the lows. And when we wake up beyond those stories, to like I'm beyond worthy, and that's more of an essence and a spiritual awakening. And some people will be available for that and some people won't. Some people will just need to enhance that egoic self of the I am good enough. Right.
Yeah, because you talk about the three levels of worth. What are they? Because neither one's better than the other. But when people think of worth, Then they either think they've got self-worth or they don't. But you talk about 3 levels. So what are the 3 levels?
And that's like the egoic level is the I'm not good enough, and then the I am good enough. And we want a healthy, integrated, egoic um, self-worth, and we want to enhance that. And then there's the more essence of waking up to I am beyond worthy. Like my worth could never be measured. Um, there could be nothing, you can't add or take anything away from something, from who they truly are and their true brilliance. Yeah.
When we talk about self-worth, though, if anyone's listening to this, how do we define it? Or how do we know if someone's listening to this going, yeah, I don't feel good enough, but how do I actually get a measurable feeling of where my worth is at right now? Is there something that, are there any stages or anything that we can do right now, listen to this podcast to work out where our self-worth sits?
Um, I mean, I think there's like indicators of when self-worth work, say that 10 times really fast,
Yeah.
is needed, right? Like when people are needing to upgrade that and enhance their self-worth. It could be that they maybe are putting up with toxic relationships. They're not going for their dreams. They're playing small. Or maybe they're not even giving themselves permission to even go for those bigger goals. Holding themselves back. They even like you could insert confidence, self-esteem into self-worth. Like they just want to feel more confident. They don't feel worthy of their goals.
Okay.
Maybe they even revert back, like they get to a certain set point, like you have your emotional set points, your unconscious set points, and maybe then they revert back because they don't feel worthy enough to reach beyond those.
Mm.
It could even like go, maybe you don't feel wanted or you don't feel like you belong. Um, and then even just like I am not enough, and that could even look like I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I am not enough. Because you're just like constantly trying to achieve, right? I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money. Like it's like more, more, more. Like to me, those are like indicators of needing some self-worth work.
Self-worth work. Yeah. That's our tongue twist for everyone to do today. Say self-worth work as fast as you can 10 times. That's your homework. Uh, okay, so that's some really good indicators for people listening to be like, okay, that's where I feel I'm sitting at the moment. So if we want to become like wake up to feel worthy, I think you mentioned that there's 5 levels of change like that we have to go through to feel. Um, can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah. The methodology that I learned and I practice because I'm like, I don't see anything that can really create sustainable, long-lasting change like this methodology. And you have the awareness, the acceptance, and then action. And a lot of coaching, they'll do the awareness and then they'll go into the action. And then where the methodology I learned and I use is that there's the 5 levels of acceptance, and you accept somatically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally, and unconsciously. And when you have something like self worth, that's such a deep wounded like core thing. um it's like it needs to be worked on all those 5 levels. You want to somatically integrate it. You want to feel this the sensations in the body. You want to work the emotional level, the shame, the anxiety, like whatever the emotions come with the feeling of not feeling worthy. Mentally questioning those thoughts that you bought into that you aren't worthy. Um, on the emotional level too, like just self-compassion, like giving yourself that self-compassion. I forgive myself for buying into the misunderstanding that I'm not worthy, right? And finding like a new truth. Um, Unconsciously, like going into that 95% of what we're not even consciously aware of um that we're doing, and then on the behavioral level of just like the behaviors that we do, um asking for the raise, going for the promotion, any kind of behavior, right? Any
Yeah.
kind of
Getting that.
behavioral thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that.
Um,
I hear that. Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of, I love how you explained everything conscious and subconscious, because I know any of my clients are listening to this podcast right now. They'll be like, Barbara says this, Barbara says this. A lot of things you just mentioned is what I will say on a daily basis to my clients. So it's nice that someone else is saying it, because, sometimes you need to hear something 100 times, and then the person that says it the 101 time is like, oh, I get that now. I do have, all of a sudden, it's funny how the universe works. I've just got some roadworks happening outside. So I'm just trying to keep my dog, my little puppy Tully, not from barking. So I think we're good now. So apologies, anyone listening to this. I'm trying to keep her not barking and interrupting our chat. So when we're talking about subconscious and the conscious part of our worth and how we feel about it, I think a big part of that is one that many people don't talk about, is the somatic way of integrating things into us to work through the self-worth. So how do you use the somatic tool to help women find their worth?
um, we work I work with the sensations in the body. And so it's like we're not thinking about the story, we're feeling the direct experience in the body. Um, could I share it? Like, could
Yeah,
I share like a somatic tool that I would take people
absolutely.
through?
We would love
Okay,
that. We would be very honored. Thank you. That'd be lovely.
beautiful. So, I mean, it could be like whatever story, the person is who I'm coaching brings to me. And it would just be like, where is it in your body? Like, where do you feel that in your body? Where is it activated right now? And so the people that are even listening to this, like you could bring up some story of like how you don't feel good enough. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not a good enough mom. However that looks for you. And instead of thinking about it, we drop in and around the sensation that that story activates, and just getting intimate with it, just getting curious with it, not judging it, just fully allowing and embracing it. And just with curiosity, noticing what's here in this present moment, and just breathing in to that sensation in the body, fully allowing it to be here. No agenda, dropping the story and allowing it to be here as much as it wants to be. Not thinking about it, but feeling into the sensation. Could be in the chest, the throat, the stomach, and those are usually like the core ones. And just start to open. And then once we get intimate with it and we feel it and we allow it, we just start to open our aperture to the walls in the room. So it's beyond the body. And we just feel the walls in the room, just allowing, feeling the sensation. Simultaneously, we're feeling like there's almost like we're separate from the sensation. We're feeling the walls in the room. We're feeling the sensation in our body. And we notice that there's something here that already allows it to be here. Just breathing into that sensation, opening the back of the heart, breathing into the sensation, just allowing it. And it just helps integrate the energy. It helps move the energy instead of it being stuck in the body. And then from that place, once you allow it, you open yourself to the walls of the room. You move beyond the sensation. If I'm nervous, if I'm like, I don't feel good enough to like go and reach out to that person, and it just helps it integrate it, and then you can take action from there, right?
How beautiful. I think everyone just listening to this podcast has just had an experience. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
But it's very relaxing too, isn't it? Do you find that from your clients that when you bring them into that state and walk them through that they kind of come to and feel like of a meditative state, they feel quite relaxed?
And just present, right? You get into the center. You get into the center of who you are, right, at your core.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to the next thing is like, when you talk about affirmations and manifestations, a lot of people have goals and it's fantastic and we all need something to work towards and that helps, but it's very, when I say surface level, I mean that there's a goal and you want to achieve it, but a lot of that stuff is tied down to like the self-worth and everything that's below the surface. So what would you say to people that are like listening to this that I want to improve the connection with myself, how I feel within myself, my self-worth. And yes, I know affirmations and manifestations will help me feel better, but how do you share with them, or what's the tips that you can give us that we need to really work on the inner work first before we jump to, yes, I am worthy and I am good enough and the affirmations? What step do we need to do first?
And it's like, it's really doing the deep dive and doing the deep inner healing to right. You're doing the emotional work, you're working the emotions, you're doing the identity work. If you still identify as a person that is not good enough, you can say those affirmations all day long, right? It's like, but on the body level, on the unconscious level, on the emotional level, um, it's still there. And so once you do that excavating and you do the deep inner work and you work the emotions, you work the mind and you question those thoughts, like I said in the beginning, that bought into your unworthiness. Um, you do the unconscious work, and then you can do the affirmations. It's almost like you have to do the acceptance work, accept the emotions, accept your thoughts, accept, like, work the unconscious, and then you do the affirmation. I am beyond worthy. I am good enough. And I love affirmations, and science tells us that the mind loves to find evidence. So I always get my clients to, like, okay, we say our affirmation, whatever that is, I am. And then we find 5 specific, grounded, tangible evidence of how that new affirmation is true. So that the mind can then start finding the evidence of, like, oh yeah, I am good enough. And then we start rewiring and we start, like, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that because I think around the world, no matter what childhood we've had, no matter what our backstory is, no matter what age we are right now, I really think like the I'm not good enough is like a core wound, a core feeling that every human being has because we're wired to stay safe and we're wired to have connection and to be accepted by others because if we're not, our life is in danger of how we used to be wired. So I just wanted to
Mhm.
bring awareness to that. A lot of people think because someone's famous or because someone's got a successful business or a happy family that some people are exempt from feeling that way, like I'm not good enough. And I just wanted to highlight that with your coaching experience too, it doesn't what's the word I'm trying to say? It doesn't discriminate against anyone. I think everyone has a bit of I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy at some point in their life. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it can be rooted back for anyone. Um, I think it's one of the biggest sufferings for humanity is that unworthiness, that I am not good enough.
And you're bringing up
Yeah.
two beautiful girls. Um, how was it seeing a part of you in them? And when you're doing the work you do now, what's something that you've consciously seen yourself do as a mum to girls to install their self-worth?
Um, oh, I think sometimes it's almost like, you have like the three levels of awareness, and it's like, you're oblivious, like you're just living unconsciously, right, to all this stuff. And and then you go into like stage two where it's like, all I have is blocks. I'm all these blocks. And then stage three, it's like, I am not these, right? I am more than these. These are not me. I can see them, so I am not them. And doing this personal development, and you learn all this stuff about like how most of their development and the things that they take on, happen between the age of 0 and 7. And you're like, oh, I'm screwing up my children. Right? And you're like, you learn this stuff. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I try and do for them is that they are worthy no matter what. And I try and bring that awareness to them of like, that doesn't have anything to do with you, right? Um, I'm trying to think of like, it's like, you visualize a child and they're doing a cartwheel and they do it and you're like, yay, like that's great. And then they don't do it and you're still like, yay, that's great. Like your achievements are not tied to your worth.
Mm,
And so I try, I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but it's like I try and help them and support them in 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 not buying into those perceptions and those illusions.
mm,
Um, it's like, oh, somebody came and home and they called me a brat, and it's like, oh, I wonder where they would have got that word, right? And so it's not personal to them. These things aren't personal to them because they can't do a cartwheel. It's not personal to them because somebody comes and calls you a brat. It's not personal to you because your
mm,
sister can. They're twins, and so I have one of my twins. She always looks up to her sister, and because she can do something that you can't, it's not personal to you. And it's like I try and just like it means nothing about who you are as an individual.
mm. What
And
I,
so I am like, you do the cartwheel, yay. You don't do the cartwheel, yay. It's like you are worthy no matter what.
mm, you are worthy no matter what. I think all of us can do with that reminder. I can't even talk. So that's how
Yeah.
important. Uh,
Yeah. Like the definition the mind puts on us is too limiting for who and what we are, right? Like we're more than that.
wow. And I'm hearing a lot of unconditional love there. That's what I'm hearing a
Mm.
lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That just sums it right up.
Very
But
unconditional.
unconditional love. Yeah.
Because we can only be what we can see. And that's a whole nother thing too, is when you become a parent and being that role model for your child or children, is there's a lot of pressure that when you have studied or done some kind of work on your brain and how it operates and your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions and how to regulate them, and that comes in on the not good enough and all that kind of stuff. Especially hard when you like there's in awareness, there's knowing. So knowing that for the first 7 years of a child's life, you're basically fed your beliefs, your values. This is how you talk to someone. This is what it looks like when you're angry. This is what it looks like when you deal with all sorts of things, how you chase your hopes and dreams. And then after 7, it's kind of locked away. And I think it does put pressure on a lot of parents. As a therapist, I see that when I start talking with my clients about that, and you can see the lights turn on in their head going, oh my God, that's why I do what I do. But then I also see the second light turn on and go, oh God, my kids, and they always say the same thing. Sorry, how old is that again? Because I can see them doing the maths in their head of how old their children are. And we're all doing a good job. And I say to people that are parents when they are in front of me, the fact that you're even worried about it tells me everything I need to know, shows me that you're a really good parent. Because, yeah,
Yeah.
some parents don't even care or want to know, and I feel interesting to ask you, when you do this stuff and you work on your self-worth and understand where it comes from and how common it is and how normal that most people don't feel good enough, I feel it's not as scary as what you think it would be. I think someone listening to this that hasn't been to therapy or hasn't even talked to anyone or done any coaching to do with their inner beliefs and their values and how their mind works, and knowing that they're good enough, I think that can be like a really scary, big kind of closet or box that no one really wants to open because they're scared, oh my God, if I open that, what else is going to come up? But I'm curious to ask you doing this now with other women, you seeing them go through this, but you yourself, of what you've learnt, it's not as scary as what you think it will be. Is that right? Like once you're in it, it's hard work and you have to really think about things and be really aware, which is really tough. But once you get past that awareness piece, is it as big or as scary as you think it would be?
No, and I think it's like not feeling it is harder than feeling it. And I think too is that people are scared that they're not going to come out of it. If I go into those depths, am I going to come out of it? And it's like, oh yeah, you'll come out of it.
Yeah, and you come out of it. But it's interesting because that whole do the work, we talk a lot about that. And I know there's heaps of people that go, what is this work? What is this thing that everyone keeps talking about, doing the work? And that also puts a negative connotation on it. Oh, you do the work. God, I work all the time. I work 9 to 5. I have a family. Why on earth would I want to put myself through more work? Like I can see where people would think that, like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You want to do more work.
Yeah. It's like I'm tired already. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And um it's it's beautiful on the other side. And it's like, and then when you're in that second stage of awareness of like, the first stage, like that ignorance was bliss. Like that was like, bring me back there where I had no awareness, right? And then as you do the work, I think it gets easier and easier. And I don't think it has to be hard. I think sometimes it can be fun to really start peeling back the layer and seeing these things and not maybe fun isn't the right word, but just like it doesn't have to be
I think it's what you make
sad and
it.
like
Yeah. I think it's what you make it. Like,
yeah.
no doubt that when I went through it, I felt ripped off a little bit. I love my parents and they did, as good as they could do. But, there's all these feelings that come up. Like you can always look outside of you and go, well, no one else is doing this, or everyone else is happy, or everyone else is doing okay. And that's simply not true. It's so interesting how we like to compare and look at things, and our brain likes to tell us one thing. But if we just come back to self, I think when you have the awareness of how you really feel about yourself and your thoughts, it's very it's all you can think about for a moment in time, isn't it? Like it can be overwhelming to start with, but the more you do it, it's like a practice with anything. The more you do it, the more I love seeing my clients piece things together. Like they're like, oh, I had this feeling and I just stopped for a moment and just sat with it. And I'm like, who are you? Like, it's just how we talk about ourselves and giving ourselves grace. I talk about that a lot and just stopping for a second and just holding and just being like, whoa, slow down. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What's happening in this very moment? Rather than a lot of us just on automatic pilot or reacting. Because
Yeah.
everything does come from self. It comes from our self-esteem and our self-worth. Every
Yeah.
decision we make, every boundary we put up, um, how we present ourselves to the world, how we talk about ourselves, how we talk in our family unit. It's all connected, isn't it?
Yeah. And life is our mirror, right? And when we start changing our inner self, it starts reflecting back out on the world and out on every aspect of our life. Like our relationships change. Maybe you, yeah, like you could look at the life wheel and just be like, the relationship with money, the relationship with your kids, your husband, wife, your health. Like it just changes all aspects of your life.
Mm, it does. Yeah. And you have a really good way of explaining all of this. It's kind of you like use the analogy of a tree. Would you want to just walk my listeners through a little bit about, I think, because sometimes when people are visual, I think this is a really nice way of kind of piecing everything together.
Yeah, I see it as like the core, the trunk of the tree. That's the core, our core wound, are like not feeling worthy. And the branches are like the patterns that um we will do because of that core wound of not feeling worthy. So it could show up as perfectionism, self-doubt, comparison, trying to prove yourself, um, scarcity, lack, right? Like not enough this, not enough that. I'm not enough. And and then from those branches go to the leaves, which like the stories that we hear, the behaviors that we do. If you look at comparison, she's thinner than me, she's a better coach than me, she's a better mom than me. If you look at perfectionism, it's like I have to be perfect. Um, and it can even like, I don't know if Enneagram, but you can even take it back to like the Enneagram where you could see from the core fears in the Enneagram, like I have to be perfect in order to in order to feel good enough. I have to help people in order to feel good enough. I have to achieve in order to feel good enough, right? And it can even the Enneagram strategies that we use. Um, but it's just all roots back to that core misunderstanding of like the feeling of I'm not good enough.
Yeah. Do you think anyone can ever get rid of that I'm not good enough, like for good? Or does it sneak back up every once in a while?
I think it can sneak. I mean, it always does for me. I don't know if you can ever like truly like for it to never come back. But I think there for me and my own personal experience is there's space between me and the I'm not good enough. And I'm quicker to come out of it and see it and go, oh no, Lori, that's just a story. You're just getting sucked in to that seductive like story. And it's like come back to yourself. And I almost see it like I am the sun and those are the clouds. Those your emotions, like your emotions, your thoughts, your behaviors, like those are the clouds. And once you part them, it opens you up to like who and what you are. You
Mm.
just part those clouds. And it's like thoughts can come and go, emotions can come and go, behaviors come and go. But the awareness, that doesn't come and go. The awareness that sees it and accepts everything, which is the sun, which is your essence. It accepts it all.
That's a really nice way of saying that. How does someone, I don't know, as we start wrapping up this episode, like self-awareness, we've spoken a lot about that today. What's a way that someone, I don't even know if I can explain it. So I'm going to ask you, I don't know if you can explain it. How would you describe what self-awareness feels like or looks like to someone that may not have it?
Oh, that's a good question. I I almost like it's like you're just not unconsciously living throughout your life. There's that certain amount of awareness of like, oh, you're not doing these things unconsciously. There's that awareness of like, oh, I see that pattern. Oh, I see that thought. Oh, that emotion, right? And it's the quality of awareness, I think, that really makes the difference. And it's that compassionate awareness to see that all of these things are just trying to help you. And it's almost like um, everything we do, it thinks it's helping us, it thinks it's serving us, or it wouldn't be doing what it's doing. And when you can see it in that cell, in that compassionate awareness of like, oh, that I'm not good enough is just trying to protect me or keep me safe or
It's like a level of questioning and curiosity. That's what it sounds like. If I was listening to what you just said for the first, like, and I had no knowledge of how it worked, my takeaways would be that I just ask myself a few questions and I just ask myself why and just be curious with it.
yeah, curiosity and not judging. One way to get stuck with something is judging it and identifying with it. And so we're
Mm.
not judging these parts of us. I judged that I am not good enough and I put it in the closet. Like I was like, you go in that closet, you go back in that hole, right? Because um but when I was courageous enough and I was willing enough to like let myself feel it and be with it,
Mm.
it opened me up to my worth. And when I accepted that part of me and I I embraced it and I allowed it instead of pushing it in the closet.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I did too. Yeah. Yeah. What an interesting chat about self-worth. I can't believe I haven't spoken about it. Again, it's one of those little sneaky things that just gets left out and it gets hidden and it's so uncomfortable. We probably don't want to talk about it. And what is self-worth and self-esteem and um yeah. Okay. So can you share with us, please, like where we can find you if people want to know more about how to work with you? And yeah, where can we find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. I'll give you the link and then you can add the link so that they can find me. I I would also love to give a worksheet that will help like these unhelpful, unworthy thoughts that people can like go through.
Awesome.
But yeah, Instagram, I'm not really active online. I do a lot of my marketing offline. So, but Instagram is the best place for people to go.
Yeah, I find that too. It's a good little community hub, isn't it, of connecting people and you can reach out to people really easily. And yeah, I love that. I love the sound of that worksheet too. I think that sounds that's such a beautiful gift and that's so helpful. And I know we're only scraping the surface here. I know we could go so much deeper, but this is just kind of like a chatty conversation. Yeah, I can say that about you and I are talking today and we're in someone's ears right now, for them just to be aware of, how do I feel about myself? Like, am I living a life that is making me feel good? Do the people around me make me feel good? How do I feel about myself? And just kind of, how often do you get a moment to think those things rather than just being, I've got to do, I've got to be, I've got this. It's kind of a chance to be like, oh, let me just stop and just do a bit of a self-reflection and check in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it has been such a wonderful chat to connect with you, and thank you for just bringing all your expertise and knowledge to the episode today.
Well, thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope this conversation has added value to your self-care journey and inspired positive changes in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a friend who might benefit from this episode. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or on your favourite podcast platform to stay up to date on future episodes. Your support means the world to me. I genuinely love hearing from you, so please take a moment to leave a review. Let me know which part of today's episode resonated with you the most. Your feedback guides the direction of this podcast, and I really appreciate each and every single one of you for being a part of this community. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, Studio Chat Podcast, or if you want to find out a bit more about my counselling private practice, head over to Instagram on self_care_studio. Or head over to my website, selfcarebybarbarathompson.com.au. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep embracing the journey of self-discovery.